It's only.
I feel like they.
Why you have to be mad?
Sorry, what was that?
Is he in Nashville? Am I close geographically?
They've
The
been cooking it
contracts.
up.
The contracts are coming in.
No one knows what he is. He's a big orange monster
What's
with
he?
googly eyes.
He's
and
a gritty.
Okay.
Little.
The Florida lead.
What do you think of Owen's bracket? Do you remember it?
It's hopeful.
Folks, episode 47, Bread Loves Hockey Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and this will not be the last episode of the season because
The Oilers.
still alive, forcing a Game 6 back home in Edmonton on Friday. It is Wednesday, so we've got 2 more days to go after the Oilers win last night. Dean, your thoughts?
Well, I am happy to everyone in the group chat's disappointment. It seems like everyone else is rooting for Florida.
For the most part.
There's still a chance. I said Florida in 6.
You did.
It looked pretty dumb when it was 3-0, but now I mean, I've been saying, well, I said that the Oilers could steal game 4. I thought Florida then in 5. Now I'm thinking Florida in 6. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see a game 7. I'd love to see the Oilers win. But yeah, we will see. And by the time you hear this podcast, you will know if there is a game 7.
Pretty crazy. I was not expecting us to be here, after 3-0, and now it's like I don't know what the hell's gonna happen. To be honest with you, it seemed like Florida were pretty much world beaters, and that was gonna be the end of it, and now like pretty much everybody on Edmonton is like stepping up, and Florida's kind of losing a step. All at the same time, which is not what you want to do when you're 1 win away from lifting the cup.
Well, what did you think after the 8-1 Edmonton win? Did you think like Florida just kind of stopped trying, like after a couple goal lead, or think it was a fluke, or you're like, oh, it's a turning point for Edmonton, or where did you stand on that?
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch the full game because that was when I was in Maryland for that wedding that Bree and I went to, but we did catch the ending of it. I don't remember what the score was when we tuned in, but Edmonton scored at least like 3 or 4 more goals before the game was over. So at the time I was like we were sort of following along with the scores, and it's like, wow, okay, they're Edmonton is scoring quickly after like Florida gets any sort of response. So, which I mean, I guess they only had the 1 goal. It was 2-1 at one point, and then they just blew them out of the water. I was kind of like, you get the 1, you get a big win to like stay alive, but I think, having the time off and going back home, like that would have kind of like let them settle in and let them like forget about that game. But then they just completely were shut down in the first 2 periods of game 5, and they turned it on too late. So now I have no idea. I really expected it to be over by now. So
You kind of touched on the mental aspect of the Panthers. In the 8-1 loss, Bobrovsky got pulled, which never happens. He always, I mean, it's been ride or die with him these playoffs and last playoff. And he's the type of goalie that hates getting pulled. So do you think that has any effect on his mental? Obviously, any goalie would say no, but I mean, I think he played fine in Game 5 as well, but could that be a factor?
yeah, I think so. Especially after letting a couple in that weren't necessarily your fault, but they were key goals. With that Hyman goal that was deflected off of him, it's maybe you could have been able to see that through the screen, but you don't, and then all of a sudden you're down big. There was that and obviously that Connor McDavid goal. I mean, there's nothing you can do there, but you gotta you got to feel for him. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um,
It's gonna be
and
tough.
the other thing I heard as far as stats go is Edmonton this year, when they lost 3 in a row, they went on to win, like, I forget the exact numbers, like 6 in a row or whatever one time, and I think their like 16 win streak or whatever was after losing 3 in a row. So it's like, if you're one of those people that look at stats and history and
Especially from this
that
season.
sort of thing, you're
Yeah.
like, oh well, maybe it's bad news for Florida. But also, if you're that same kind of uh, stats person, you were probably thinking that the Oilers were going to get swept because the last Canadian team to get swept in the finals was also the Oilers in 1983. So, fun
Well,
fact for you.
the last Islanders Cup win. Of course, then the Oilers won the Cup the next season against the Islanders again in the rematch. So, who knows? Maybe we'll just see a rematch of this Cup final next season.
Could be.
But I don't know. I mean, I think Skinner has improved immensely in the last 2 games too, which is not what you want to see if you're Florida, of course. They did score a couple like pretty decent goals against him, so it's not like he was otherworldly. But I saw his like games 4 through 7 stats for this playoffs were like actually pretty good. They were like 9-10 something save percentage and like a 317 goals against, something like that, which isn't like crazy, but compared to the overall numbers that he was putting up for most of the run, I don't know where his overall numbers are at now, but
Well, even
they were pretty rough.
last game, the Panthers had 32 shots and he allowed 3, so like just over 90. And like
It's
that game too, it's like the save. You're like, well, like Vasilevsky probably could have made that save or whatever, but again, we mentioned before, it's like you just need him to be like get average goaltending out of him. You're not expecting the Oilers to win based off goaltending. Like you're expecting them to win based off their forwards and maybe their power play and some defense, hopefully.
yeah, which I think that has been the reason, like over the last 2 games that they've been making it close, is like the big names finally stepping up. Hyman gets his first goal of this series after leading the playoffs with goals at 14. I think he's at 15 now.
Yeah.
And he had 50 plus goals in the regular season, so it was like, why aren't these guys showing up? I know McDavid, Draisaitl didn't have many points or goals for most of this run until now. So like they've just flipped a switch at the most I guess the most convenient would have been at the start of the series, but at the best time for them given their 3-0 deficit,
Arnell Nurse got his first goal of the playoffs in the 8-1 game.
Yeah. That's big. Like having some guys get those monkeys off their back. I know Corey Perry obviously scored in
That
game
was his
5
first.
as well, yeah. So that was big. I mean, yeah, that was the crazy McDavid dangle through like 4 Florida players, and then he just passes
Here you
it
go.
off. Yeah, he's like, there you are.
Yeah,
And
and I don't know,
that was a
were you
backbreaker.
listening to the broadcast for that? Like they were talking about how Nurse was on the bench and he told Perry to go.
Yeah, I saw
It's
that.
kind of interesting. Like they're both like leaning over the boards, and since McDavid kind of not a breakaway because again he had the whole defense in front of him, but like was rushing up into the zone, so that's why I assume Nurse told Perry to go. And if Nurse had gone on, it wouldn't have been he would have had to shoot it, I guess, and who
Yeah,
knows
no
what would
way.
have happened. But
Florida
so where
does
does this leave? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say Florida does end up making it close at the end. They were down 4-1, and then they end up making it 4-3. They started peppering Skinner towards the end. Like they had, I think, 6 shots in 40 seconds, and they just weren't able to close it. There was a really close Matthew Tkachuk chance towards the end with like 3 minutes left, and it really looked like it was gonna go in, and they were gonna tie it, and then it's like they just got snake bitten at the end.
Czech also had that really nice goal that he saved on the goal line, the empty net one, and then McDavid scores like 5 seconds later.
I know, that was so tough. I was like, oh my god. Like, first, the stick work required to make that save. I'm like, if I was in that same position, there's no way I would be able to contort. Because, like, the way he was doing it, you couldn't just, like, sweep it. Like, you had to sweep it, but then, like, knock it with just the end. And so, like, it's like a heavy stick, too. So you have to like maneuver it just right. He gets a beautiful save, and then like OEL's right there, gives it up or something, and then
OEL just like didn't do anything. I assume he thought the puck was either in or the net was knocked off. Like you can see him literally just coasting after it happens. Like, I'm watching it right now. Like you can see like the immediate posture change. He's like this, the puck goes in or
it's like,
whatever, and he like stands up, and then he's like, "Oh crap!" and sees McDavid, and then it's too late.
it's always too late when you see McDavid coming in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a tough one. I mean, they only had like 11 seconds left at that point, I think, so they weren't gonna get anything done. But
Yeah, it was like 18 seconds when it went in, and it's also like I wonder if you had knocked the net off. There's like sometimes I think extenuating circumstances where it's like if the puck's going in the middle of the net but the net's off, like within the same play or whatever, they can call it a goal. But it's all what ifs, doesn't matter.
yeah, I mean, he like swept it away from the net, so I feel like he did enough to, even though he like went into the net, which he kind of like curled up really tight too to like try to not knock it off. I felt like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they would have kept it going, but
Yeah.
it's
So where
tough
does
to
this
make
leave
those
us
calls.
for Game 6? Who are you predicting?
Honestly, Edmonton.
Well, Florida in 6, I guess.
Cool. Sounds like a
Uh,
win-win for me. I I
I'm
don't
gonna
know. I just don't have confidence in the Florida group like getting over these like yips that they have. Whatever it is, it's like clearly they've been a little bit rattled by not being able to close the gap yet.
Yeah.
But they've got two more chances, which is great. Like they bought those two chances with their play in the beginning, and I can't count them out as far as like finding their game again. It's just that's not how things have been trending.
Yeah, I'd love to have them experience the reverse sweep, especially after obviously what they did to Boston last year. Um,
And
but
this year,
well, but this year didn't. I mean, they didn't. We didn't have a 3-1 lead this year against
right?
them. Um, but with that said, I'm probably gonna stick with my original prediction of Florida and 6. I think the worry for me is, I mean, obviously good win for Edmonton the other night, but they had a 3-0 lead and a 4-1 lead, and then still almost gave it up. Like they're playing with this, they score early the last two games, and then play with this lead, and then, I mean, an 8-1 lead that, yeah, they just blew them out of the water. But this last time, like, even a 3-goal lead late in the game isn't safe, and like if they're trying to just defend this lead, it's like it's probably not going to work. And my worry for Game 6 is if they don't get the lead off the start. Like if Florida goes up 1-0, they're just gonna, like, Florida is a team that can just lock down and like stifle any offense. So I feel like you can't keep scoring first every game, and if Florida gets the better chance in Game 6 and gets on the board early, or even just before Edmonton, I think they'll win.
Yeah, and that wouldn't like super surprise me. I think they need like Bobrovsky to stand strong in like the first 10 or so minutes, and then maybe they're able to get a decent goal the other way, and then that kind of just like shifts the momentum. Like suddenly, the weight of like the position that the Oilers are in, where it's like, we've kind of forgotten a little bit that it's do or die. Like still lose this game and it's over. So I think they have to. The Panthers have to remind the Oilers of that a little bit. We'll see if like the pressure of the home crowd has an impact too. And this time the Panthers will be here like not having that same level of concern. Not maybe not concern, but like they're the energy will be a little bit different than it was in Game 4, where it's like, all right, they're riding high. All we got to do is close it out. And now it's like, okay, like stick to your game a little bit more. Like you know what you have to do to block these guys down and make them frustrated. So you have to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I have a feeling it's going to be a very Florida win, like a 2-0. It was in Edmonton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take the crowd out of it early kind of thing, just like a slow, boring game. And Edmonton, just like too little, too late, like turns it on in the third, and just I don't know if Bobrovsky steals the show or what, but that's my prediction: a 2-0 win.
Okay, we'll see. And I mentioned this during Game 5. Obviously, I was rooting for Florida, but how did you feel about like the officiating over the last couple of games? Because it's been like high penalties, but at least this is the way that I felt, was that at least in Game 5, it felt like the refs did not want to give Florida a power play. Like they were giving them penalties, like Oilers penalties.
Everything.
There's a lot of offsets, and
a lot 4v4, and then there was also a 1-minute penalty, and then they called the power play team to offset it. Yeah. I do like that they're calling embellishment though, like the Tkachuk one where he gets slashed in the hands and it's like his legs just come out from under him. Like Tkachuk didn't even complain about that.
Yeah.
Like, so that's good at least. But yeah, it does seem like calling a lot of penalties for the finals.
I felt like there was some stuff like that Edmonton did that like Florida was doing and that was getting called for, and then it wasn't like going the other way. But maybe that was just because I'm like trying to push for Florida. But it just felt like there were a couple things where it's like that like if Florida did that, it felt like they would have been called. But
yeah, no, I see that. Like again, in this time of year, there's so many things that the refs normally will just let go on, like especially in front of the net, like scrums or in the boards, like cross-checking isn't cross-checking anymore and things like that. So it's like, it's just, you expect consistency throughout the game, and if you're not calling these cross-checks in the first and all of a sudden you call them in the second or third, it's confusing players. But I mean, I don't know if it's any less consistent than it's always been. It's just they're more under the microscope in the finals, obviously. So
yeah, there were a couple of those cross-checks that happened early in that game that Florida got called on, and then it's like you see something similar or maybe like a trip or a hook from Edmonton, and then it's like, why aren't they getting, like, if you're calling things like that, like you have to just have to call them throughout the whole game, and it didn't feel like it was super even that way. But again, I don't know if we have the numbers. I kind of want to see like the total penalty numbers, and it doesn't tell you the whole story because part of it is like the timing of when those penalties were called. But let's see. Oh.
No, while you're looking for that, the Oilers are the favorites for Game 6. It might be the first game they're the favorites.
That's big. That is big for sure. Or it's a curse, I guess.
Or it's a curse. We will see, I guess.
Here we go. So 8 penalty minutes for Edmonton, 12 penalty minutes for Florida.
I mean, the other thing is, like, obviously refs, you've seen the charts where it's like most penalized teams also draw the most penalties because refs try to like balance each game. It's like, well, we've already given Florida 2, so we need to give Edmonton 2, but like sometimes teams just are less disciplined and the other team possesses the puck more, so one team's gonna get more penalties than the other. It doesn't necessarily mean the refs are bad or anything. Like, if every single game were balanced, then that would be kind of sketchy and concerning as well. So
yeah, it's so tough because you don't really know if like how much your bias is, like you're reading into it versus like what's actually happening. But
like, McDavid should be drawing lots of penalties.
Absolutely, he should. I mean, the way that he like moves is like nobody else, and so there's only so many legal ways that you can defend against it before you kind of have to slash them or hook them or trip them or whatever. He drew at least one penalty in the game, game 5. So, and he also set some new records, right, Dean?
He has. This is one that a lot of people didn't think would ever be broken. 32 assists in the postseason for Connor McDavid is the record, breaking Gretzky's previous record. And yeah, like I said, it's just something historic and legendary. Like, it's just, I don't know. And 32 in how many games have they played?
They
I'd say,
played
like,
5 in the first series. They played how many against Vancouver? 7, so 12, and then 6, so 18. They played 23
he broke
games.
It in, yeah.
I think he played in all the games, right? I don't think he missed any games. So.
Yeah, no.
32 assists in 23 games. Yeah, I'd say
incredible. Now he's at like
good.
34 maybe or 35, like.
Yeah, somewhere around there. He's got 42 points in this playoffs, which I think puts him at 3rd all time for playoff points in a single playoff run, behind Gretzky and Lemieux. Again, pretty good company there, and he's not stopping anytime soon. And then
and he also set another record for the most points in a 2-game span in the Stanley Cup Final with 8.
Which
2 games.
2 games.
Obviously, the 8-1 win helps a lot.
Right, but then he factored in on almost all of the goals in Game 5. So that's exactly what you want from like your superstar, from Connor McDavid. Like, you have to. This is what everybody was saying you need to have happen in order for the Oilers to have like a legitimate chance here. So that's good.
Do you think if Edmonton loses Game 6, there's still a chance that McDavid could get the Hart?
The Conn Smythe?
Or Conn Smythe, sorry.
Yeah, I do.
I think only one other skater has ever done it. Like, there's been a couple goalies on losing teams, but
it's rare for sure.
Yeah,
it's tough to, because I don't really know who you would give it to for Florida, at least as of right now. Like, maybe Game 6 makes it a little more obvious, but like, to me, like, I don't really have a standalone candidate in my mind for Florida right now for who I would give it to if they win.
I think it's between, as far as like favorites go, Bobrovsky and Barkov.
Which,
well, like, after what happened, like Bobrovsky getting pulled, it's like maybe it's probably Barkov's probably the favorite now. But again, depending what happens in Game 6, if Bobrovsky has a shutout on 40 saves, then it's probably going to him. But yeah, so McDavid's at 42 points. Gretzky's record he has 3rd place and 1st place, but his 1st place record is 47 points. So if it went Game 7 and they lost in Game 7, and McDavid gets 5 more points next 2 games, I think he's got to get it, like, no matter what. Right?
I mean, like, you'd think that would be enough. Like, that's the best points performance of any player in the playoffs of all time if he breaks that. So it's like, how could you not give him the Conn Smythe, I guess. We'll see if we need to even get there. And Bouchard has also had a record-breaking run with number of assists for a defenseman in a playoff run. I think it was like 22, maybe.
I know we had talked about it before. Like, after 2 rounds, he was like, he already had 20 or something. It was on pace for something crazy, but I imagine it's slowed down a little. But
yeah, he did. And I'm pretty sure he broke Paul Coffey's record, who's now on the bench for Edmonton. So that's kind of fun that way. So it's like the battle of 2 teams right now. You've got like the super heavy, top heavy Edmonton team versus a little more, depth on Florida. And generally, the way that it goes is the deeper teams usually come out on top. We kind of saw that with Vegas last year. But I mean, it's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl too. Like I can't count him out either. But
Right.
I'm going to say Edmonton wins Game 6 and Florida wins Game 7. That's what I'll lock it up for now.
All right, I'll take a Game 7.
After the way this started, I think a lot of people would be happy to see that because it wasn't
Not Florida
super
fans.
Right. Well, if they win, I mean, it's just kind of a fun
They
story.
probably still would have liked to win in 4. Like, as a neutral fan, you don't want to see a sweep.
Yeah, no, you don't.
The Caps were the only team in the playoffs to get swept.
Makes sense. They were the least deserving team in the playoffs, but doesn't always happen that way. This year was
more
kind
than
of strange.
the overtime point merchants.
Right. They didn't do a whole lot better themselves, but they got the gentleman's sweep, so.
And they weren't minus 43 or whatever in the regular season.
They weren't great, but they weren't.
They were like minus 30.
Yeah, I mean, come on, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Not good for a playoff team, of course, but not bad. We do have some news about the Capitals if you want to jump ship from the finals talk.
Yeah, that's all I got.
At this point, we're just viewers, you know. We just gotta hope something exciting happens with that.
Enjoying good hockey.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Meanwhile, the other teams not playing right now have been a little bit busy, and Darcy Kemper on the move to L.A. for Pierre-Luc Dubois. So it's just a straight hockey trade, and I think the Kings did exceptionally well in this deal. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, let me check Cap Friendly while it still exists.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too. I've got it pulled up here. 5.25 for Darcy Kemper, and 8.5 million for Dubois.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about buying out Pierre-Luc Dubois, so they don't have to do that.
Yep.
You're still losing a center that, is hard-ish to replace, I guess. Like, I mean, he's
and
still...
you traded a lot for him to acquire him.
Yeah,
too.
you traded a lot for him, and like, I feel like when he was on, he was pretty good. When he wasn't, he sucked. Obviously, like that's the whole thing with him, right?
Yeah. Low effort.
Low effort, and yeah, I think he was playing like at the fourth line minutes, but at the end there. But you're still gonna have to find a center unless they have someone in the pipeline. I don't know the Kings prospects.
Me either.
But yeah, I think it's a good trade for the Kings. I agree. Getting some cap space. I don't know what their goalie needs were either, but getting a
they definitely
backup
needed
goalie.
one. They only had one goalie under contract before the trade, and that was David Riddick with a one signed for one more year, and then they had Talbot and Copley both as free agents.
And I'm looking at the cap. The caps for goalies now just have Lindgren signed.
Lindgren and probably maybe Hunter Shepard as well. Yeah, they different story there.
And right. Yeah, they have some guys like non-roster players right now. Only one rostered goalie, but obviously that'll change. Yeah, let me look at the Kings.
Yeah, I think they'll probably be able to pick somebody up. But I think Kemper needed a change after this past season in Washington. Like, just did not work at all, and he kind of lost the net a little bit at the end there, and LA needed a goalie. Now we'll see if Kemper picks back up from where he was in Arizona and in Colorado, or if this is kind of like a trending downward situation. But I think this will be a good shakeup for him. And I guess in that regard with the Capitals, like it just wasn't working there. So,
Yeah.
that part's good, but now you do have to find somebody else, and you've got a lot locked up into Dubois. I mean, he's 25, so hopefully this is like the last go round for him as far as like, we can fix him sort of thing. We've kind of mentioned that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting too because I feel like normally with 1-to-1, like 1-for-1 player trade, you see it like if you're seeing it with players that you actually know the names of, not just AHL like moving cap space around trades like big blockbuster ones. But this is like you said, two struggling players where it's like 1-for-1. We'll just see if maybe they do better on a different team. So I am looking at the Kings. I think they're okay on center depth. I mean, they still have Kopitar, Philip Deneau, Blake Lizotte is an RFA. They'll probably re-sign him, and then I don't know. So Quentin Byfield they have listed as left wing / center. So I don't know where he's been playing, but I think when he was drafted, if I remember correctly, he was gonna be a center.
I think so
But
too.
I don't know because a lot of teams have been doing this. Like Natchez was gonna be a center, but he's been playing wing in Carolina.
It's probably like whatever. Like if you've played center before, we'll sort of draft you to fill in whatever need like we have on the team. So I wouldn't be surprised if Byfield was centering his own line like next season because they need him to, more or less.
Yeah, but it's also tough. Like, you know how it's easier to get forward prospects acclimated to the NHL than defensive prospects. Because like defense is so much harder at the NHL level. It's like a bigger jump. So it's similar with centers because I mean it's a very defensive position. So I think a lot of times if you're a center at the lower level and get brought up, they might start you at wing or try you at center. And if you're a defensive liability, then you switch to wing, and sometimes you just end up stuck there.
Yeah. So we will see how they replace, if they replace from within, if they pick up, like a third or fourth line center on the free agent market. But this was a weird one. Wasn't a whole lot of grease to this one like before everything went down. And it's again one of those ones where if you have the 1-for-1 trade, it's usually the same roster position, like a forward for a forward or defenseman for a defenseman. So you don't see it for like a ton of these where it's goalie and forward.
Yeah, it's funny. Someone joked on Reddit that like no wonder the Caps wanted to buy and shut down Cap Friendly so that people couldn't see the new Pierre-Luc Dubois contract, like staring them down all season.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot, I think, for some Caps fans, and I wanted to hear what Sam's takes were on the trade because I think a lot of other fans have seen what Dubois has been doing over the last couple of seasons with the last couple of teams, and it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence right away that he's gonna immediately like make a huge impact and be the kind of guy that we've expected for a while.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like the Dubois and Laine trade a little bit, where like both these players needed a shakeup, and so of course it's Dubois again. It's like same sort of situation.
Because Dubois like asked to get traded to LA. I mean, he's been traded a bunch of times now, but I think some of them he was like requested trades because he like wanted a new place. Now I think this one, I don't know if he requested it or the team just like, all right, we're done with this contract and this player.
Yeah, I feel like he didn't ask for this, but he kind of maybe had an inkling that something was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on a plane, I guess, while they traded him, but they were able to get like a message to him. So it sounds like he's eager to get started with the Caps. But what else are you gonna say? I mean, really. So yeah, we'll know more soon, and maybe we'll have Sam on during the off season to see how he feels about the situation and just the Caps in general.
Mm-hmm. I see you're wearing your Ducks jersey today.
I sure am.
Any particular reason?
This is a little nod to the look that they're going to be sporting next season. It's going to be similar to this, not completely, but the rumor is, and we've got some leaks, I guess. Don't know, they're still kind of unconfirmed at this point, but we've got some knowledge about they're going back to this this Mighty Duck logo. The sticks will be a little bit more orange, and this sort of triangular part will be like a gold fleck material, not quite like Vegas, but similar. And then they'll have the Web D, like a slightly newer version of it on the shoulders, which I think this is where that logo belongs, to be honest. I think it works a lot better as a shoulder patch, as a secondary logo, than it does as a crest. Yeah. So it'll be orange. It'll be a slightly darker orange. I think it's actually Aesthetic said it was the same orange that the Flyers are now using, which is like that darker orange, which I think works a lot better than some of the other oranges that have been tried recently. So I'm excited for it. You saw the leaks, so I mean,
I like them.
It's a positive change, I think.
Very creamsicle.
Yes, especially the away one, I think is a lot like that. I was a little surprised that they didn't have the white shoulders for the away. I thought maybe the white shoulders instead of the orange would look a little bit better.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know. So you're saying like all white almost?
Kinda, yeah. Like a lot similar to their reverse retro 2.0s. I leaned the wrong way. They're over there. But anyways, you can't see it in the background right now. But some also people were talking about the pants probably could stand to be black instead of orange. Like it's just a lot of orange all at once.
Yeah, I mean the Bruins had this with the yellow socks for a while, and they switched to black, and everyone was like, "What the heck? The yellow was awesome," and now we're all used to it. But I liked the yellow. I don't know. I feel like I always like more color if you can make it work. Like if your whole entire thing's orange, it's a bit much. But like, I mean, I guess the leaked photo of like the home uniform is very orange, and he's like standing in like a shaded, blurred whatever. So maybe it makes it look more appealing than on the ice, which is like blindingly orange everywhere.
That'll be the true test.
I mean, yeah, like broadcast view. Yeah, I could see white socks maybe working better, or black for at home, because I think the balance on the away is good. Like white helmet, white middle of the jersey, white socks. Also, like I don't know if you mentioned this already, the orange eyes, because on your jersey they're not orange, right?
Also true, yes, and they've been sort of highlighting that quite a bit. Like the eyes are going to be different.
The like true sneak peek that was actually like tweeted by the Ducks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, they're slowly rolling it out. We'll get like an official Fanatics like launch before the draft, like a couple days before the draft. That's kind of what they did with Adidas when they came in. So that'll be fun. And I guess one point that I hadn't really considered when we were started talking about the whole Utah stuff with how quickly they needed to turn around a design was like, yeah, they kind of had to have a design ready for the Fanatics launch, because it would kind of spoil the whole launch if Utah wasn't ready yet. So really, rather than having a design ready for the start of the season, it's really like they had from April whatever when they bought the team to a couple days before the draft. So really like 2 months essentially to get something turned around. So I guess I'm a little more understanding about the bland look for next season than I was before, but still a little disappointed. Oh, wow.
Do you know what I just thought of?
No.
Remember? Really? You can't read my mind? remember the last week or the week before, I think 2 weeks ago now, we talked about like the Major League Hockey,
Yes.
and Elliot Friedman said they were going to discuss something during the Cup Finals.
I
I hadn't
haven't
heard anything.
I haven't heard
So
a
I
lick of
looked.
anything.
So I googled Major League Hockey. Um, okay, here it is. And for a second, I couldn't find the website. I was like, "Oh, is the website down?" But no, it is. It is still here.
Hmm.
But I guess I had to Google Major League Hockey website to find it. Because yeah, if
Oh.
you type in Major League Hockey, it just brings up NHL stuff. Um,
I'm
but
getting
yeah.
more and more skeptical about it. I mean, I watched, the hockey guy did a good video on it, kind of breaking down that article that you had mentioned and like a lot of the things that were seeming fishy about it with the draft has been completed, but we don't have all these teams or all these locations like sorted out yet, and we don't have arenas. It's like you can't really have both of those going on at the same time, I feel like. So I don't know. I had said half jokingly that like I thought that the league was going to happen in some capacity, but honestly, I don't even know at this point. It seems a little too out there, too many promises, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Scammy.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if we don't hear anything by the end, well, I guess Friedman expected to hear something, but who knows what that means. But yeah, I'm not obviously actively keeping up with it because I just randomly remembered it, but we'll see if we hear anything. I'm
Yeah,
sure it'll be posted all over the internet if we do.
absolutely. We're in those internet circles,
Mm-hmm.
so
It's nice that we're kind of in like slightly separate ones, so we have like most things covered.
yes, agreed. We do have some more trade news as well that also broke today. Um, the first one being Jacob Markstrom officially moves to the Devils, which it sounded like this was going to be happening for a while now. Like this was kind of like a worst kept secret sort of thing.
Year.
I feel like it was a year more or less. The trade deadline was like things were really heating up and nothing got done.
We're like, why didn't they get a goalie? They need a goalie.
Yeah, well, and then it was weird because they didn't get Markstrom during the trade deadline. They weren't able to get that done. So then they go and they trade for both Jake Allen and for Kaapo Kähkönen. Well, they move uh, Blackwood or Vanacek in the process. I know Blackwood is over there too. So it was just kind of weird that they still went for it late, like because they were kind of still in the playoff mix, but not really. And then they get these two goalies that I don't think were their top choices, and then they ended up trading to get him anyways in the offseason. Like I feel like you should have just rode out the Schmid and Vanacek sort of wave for the rest of last season, and then you do this trade now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Um, I was just looking at who the Devils traded.
At the
They traded
return, yeah.
Evan Ball, number 88, nice number. Um, who played all 82 games this year, 1 goal, 10 assists. He's a defenseman, 23 years old, drafted in the second round of 2018, and then they also traded a top 10 protected first round pick in the 2025 draft. But Calgary also retains 31.25% of Markstrom's salary.
Which is big for New Jersey.
Yeah, big help. And who knows what will happen with Kevin Ball? I mean, I feel like they didn't give up too much, but I guess as a Devils fan, you probably know more about him, and if he's seems like a defensive defenseman.
I don't think it's like a piece you'd lose too much sleep over.
No.
Especially because they've been clamoring to get a change in goaltending for pretty much the whole season, and this was kind of like the guy that a lot of people were expecting them to get. So now they have him. We'll see what they do if they run with Markstrom and Allen, and maybe because I think Schmid and Dawes are both RFAs, so maybe they let both of them go, or maybe they re-sign one of them and keep them in Utica. But the big thing now is that they have options. And
Right.
you're also expecting that 2025 pick to not be the same level that it is this year. Like, they have a top 10 pick this year just because they had an off year. But I'm expecting them to perform a lot better this season. So I would think, you'd be looking more on like the 20s and maybe 30s.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I think it was a good move for both teams. Calgary finally moves on from him. He is like 35 or 34, which is a factor. But if you're the Devils, you're kind of just hoping like ride with him for the next couple of seasons. He's still pretty strong, and then go with Allen if it doesn't really work out. And the Sharks also involved in a couple of minor deals. So the Rangers had earlier in the week they had placed Barclay Goodrow on waivers, and so the Sharks claimed him, which I think the Rangers are pretty happy about because his numbers were pretty poor last year as far as how much they were paying him to be their fourth line center, and he wasn't really putting up huge numbers. He did have a couple. I think he had 4 goals in the playoffs, but other than that, not a whole lot to show for the season. And he has been with the Sharks before, which is probably part of the reason that they picked him up. So I think it probably works for both teams. I don't know how much of an impact they'll have with the Sharks, but they're obviously still not expecting to be serious like contenders next year or anything like that.
And they have the cap space to just grab a player if they want.
Yeah, get to the cap floor sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they also trade for the signing rights to Ty Dellandrea, who's a young defenseman for Dallas, and they trade a 2025 fourth round pick, which is originally Winnipeg's. So that's not that terrible. I don't think Dallas could really afford to keep him, so it's kind of like a sneaky little move. If you had your eyes on him, you can get him for a decent price, and if you like him, you can kind of lock him up.
Yeah, it seems like Dallas fans are sad to see him go, but are happy with the return. Seems like will be a good piece for San Jose. And then on the other Sharks related thing is, did you see the Logan Couture trade rumors, and the GM came out and said that the rumors are false?
I did not see that.
Well, here you go.
I'm not super surprised that they wouldn't trade him. I mean, he is their captain, and he has been not playing for a while. Like he only got into the season pretty late in the running.
He said it's absolutely false, and especially because he says that they're bringing in young players and having a young team, that Couture is like exactly the type of person you want to have around the young players, which makes sense.
Yeah, and I also think it would be very tough to trade him if they wanted to, given how little he's played and he's getting older, and I don't think his contract is super desirable.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is, but I can pull it up for all you lovely
For now.
Yeah, I know. Well, then I'll just have to go to another website. Logan Couture. Is he on the IR? Yeah, okay. 35 years of age, $8 million until 2027-28 when he becomes a UFA. So 3 more seasons at $8 million. At this age, and again with his injury history, you can't move that contract. So not really surprised. It'll be, it's too bad for him, being another part of those long San Jose years where they were really successful in the regular season and made deep playoff pushes but never got over the hump. That's kind of been one of those legacies of failure sort of thing where they get so close and can't do it. And, that was the whole story with Patrick Marleau and Joe Pavelski and Joe Thornton. It's like those 3 guys as well were part of those teams and just were unable to get it done with any team. So it's
Yeah.
kind of too bad. I mean, I am a Vegas fan, so I'm supposed to, be laughing at their demise, I guess. But it's like, you don't want to be a cold-hearted cynic, I guess.
You always gotta root for the old guys winning their first cup.
Yeah.
That's what Zane's doing right now.
He's pushing for Ogposo. I don't know if you heard, but he is a big fan, and he wants him to win the cup.
Obviously with the Islanders connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Ogposo's 36. So, I mean, he's like a very physical player. So who knows how many more years he has left.
Probably if they win this year, 0, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Unless he thinks he can get paid somewhere else because he was part of the cup run. Like, okay, give me 2 more years at, a couple million per and, let me, play for the Sharks or play for just, a team that just needs a warm body with experience that can teach, a younger group.
Yeah, I mean, he's made $58 million. I think he's okay on the money front. Maybe
Probably.
He's a big spender. Lavish lifestyle. Who knows?
Yeah, very, very big spender living in Buffalo for a lot of years. What the hell are you going to buy out there? I don't know. Get a heated driveway.
Stewart's Pizza.
I don't think they have Stewart's all the way out in Buffalo.
You would know.
They don't. I think the furthest is Syracuse area, the furthest west, which is still pretty far, but Stewart's is a local convenience store. For me, anyways. Not for Dean. They are not that far out for sure.
No.
But Dean got a little taste of them when we were at Clarkson. So.
And Brennan set his sights on visiting all of them, and then decided that it was a lot of work.
We did 5 days of travel. The first day I drove 14 hours. I think the next day was 12, and that's the day we came up and met you at Potsdam. We did 5 days of 14 to 12 or 10 hour days, and Bree and I were just so exhausted and fed up with each other. We were just barking at each other over nothing because we're just so sick of being crammed in the car and doing nothing but getting out, taking a picture, and getting back in the car. So we're we can't keep doing this. The relationship is gonna end. It wasn't that bad, but it was just a lot.
Well, they're not going anywhere if you ever find time in the future.
Yeah, we've got 150 more to go or something like that, and they're all south of us now. None of them are out west anymore. It was just all south of us, but there's probably some that are 2 hours south of me right now. So it would still be a huge undertaking to finish up. And I don't think she has any interest in returning to it now that I think this is our 3rd summer since we did it. Maybe our 2nd. I think it's our 3rd summer, though. So it's kind of is it really worth it at this point?
Yeah.
We were going to make a video, too. We had a bunch of pictures and some vlogs and things. But now it's if we did it again, we would look so much different, probably. And there's, they do move some locations around, I guess. But anyways.
Oh, well. There's your Stewart podcast lore.
I wish I could say, speaking of moving around, but we did all of our trades, so we only have a couple guys staying put.
Speaking about staying home and not moving around.
Yes. A couple extensions. Philip Hronek gets an 8 by 7.25 extension with Vancouver. That's big money. I don't think this is a good move personally. I'm worried about how he's gonna perform. His some of his micro stats are not great. I feel like he performed well when he was on the top line with Quinn Hughes, but who isn't for the most part. I mean, it'll age better, I guess, as the cap continues to rise. But I'm not sure this was the right fit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I feel like if you have, I feel like he's a middle 6 guy, right? Like you said, he's not a top line player. Actually, well, I guess not middle
Top
six.
pairing defenseman, yeah.
Pairing, yeah. He's like a probably your second pair, but like a solid second pair. Um, and I mean, if you have someone like that, he's been pretty consistent. Like he was consistent in Detroit, and I mean, the problem is you're paying him after the 1 year in Vancouver where like everyone was shooting 50% and like had this crazy PDO season.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean, I think like I said, he's been consistent. He's only 26. The cap's going up, like you said. Like I don't hate it. And I mean, it might not look great in 5 years, but like a lot of these long-term contracts, you're paying for like them to be good in the first half or a little extra, and then after that, you can always buy them out, depending how the contract's structured and like when they're getting the most money. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
I
think
think
it's like an
I'm fine with
absolute
it.
stinker, but I don't know. I'm not super sold on it. I'm not a Vancouver fan though.
Yeah, I feel like if I was Vancouver, I'd be fine with it. I mean, I also know him better because we've watched him play the whole season with my team.
Yep.
But from what I've seen, I don't know. I like it. I like the deal.
And Scott Perunovich in St. Louis gets a 1 by 1.15 extension to stay there. He's kind of like a sixth defenseman, I think. I think he's a defenseman, right? Or is he a
Yeah.
forward?
Yep. Another defenseman,
Okay.
25 years old. You never have too many depth defensemen. Seems like in the playoffs you always have all your defensemen like blocking more shots than usual, breaking hands or whatever. And you're like, "Ugh, next man up mentality type thing."
Mm-hmm.
So
I
need
think
that
this
guy.
works. It's not like obviously this is a lot more of a minor move than the Hronek
Yeah.
deal, but so there's not really a ton that you could be super upset with. But I think both parties win in this one.
Mhm.
Good for St. Louis to lock a couple guys up while they're sort of in this transition phase. It's like you're not really expecting them to be playoff contenders. I mean, maybe a contender, but not like a cup contender next year. Um, so good to have guys who wanna stick around. You know who's not sticking around though, Dean?
Ooh.
Pascal Vincent.
What?
Don Waddell does a little house cleaning as he comes in as the new general manager, and he fires Pascal Vincent after what was a weird situation for him to have been put in this his only season as head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. After coming in from not being expected to be the guy, Mike Babcock gets fired before he even gets to training camp. And so it's like, okay, all of a sudden, instead of assistant, like you're the guy. And what could he have really done? I guess this was a Columbus Blue Jackets team not expected to make a playoff push. They were expected to be better than the previous season, but they did not do that. They had some major injuries. Line was out for a while. Fantilli missed a decent amount of time. I think they were like eighth in man games missed or something like that. So I don't know. I think it's part of just like Waddell wants to select someone else. Like he's now that he's at the helm, it's like I want to go a different direction.
Yeah. I mean, it's not unexpected. I feel like this could have happened partway through the season or at the start of playoffs or any time. Like, I mean, it was going to happen. Um, and I saw the stat already mentioning it too that now this will be Johnny Goodrow's 10th head coach in 10 years in the NHL,
Which
which is
is
crazy.
that's part of been the narrative from him for a while was like he drives coaches out, and that was part of the reason I guess that he didn't stick around in Calgary maybe. Um, so yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of guys. I'm only familiar with like four of these guys, so 4 or 5.
The coaches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the more recent guys.
yeah, me too.
Hartley, Gulutz, mm,
I think it's Golitzin. I don't know.
Gulletson, that sounds right. Gulletson, Peters, Ward, Huska. Ryan Huska was the interim coach. Daryl Sutter, Brad Larson, Mike Babcock, I guess. Like, I don't know. Not really.
Yeah.
Pascal Vincent, and then whoever is going to be next, which I haven't heard any rumblings on that as far as ways that Waddell is leaning or anything like that. I have to look at, like, who's available. We know Rod the Bot is not joining him. We already locked that one up, so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who else is really available, but they'll get somebody.
Like Babcock's available.
Yeah, I don't know. Something tells me that they wouldn't make that mistake twice. I don't think anybody's going to hire him again. I hope not, anyways.
I'm trying to find a list of available coaches, but it's not an easily searchable thing apparently. But anyway, we can cover that last bit of news you were about to say.
Sure. So we had talked about the Ghost Pirates not renewing their affiliation with Vegas, which was expected with the whole Tahoe team coming in next year. This is ECHL we're talking about. So they have joined up with the Panthers and the Charlotte Checkers, which makes sense. I mean, Savannah is a lot closer to Florida than it is to Vegas. So this just kind of all seems to align pretty well. We'll see. I don't know who the Everblades will partner up with now, but I mean, obviously Florida Everblades still closer than Savannah, but it just seems like the two teams didn't want to stick that out. So little minor news there, but the expectation again being for Vegas that the Tahoe Night Monsters will be the new affiliate. So then they'll have kind of all three of the teams all in close proximity, which I think you want.
Yeah,
that'll be
definitely makes it easier.
Yeah, easier for the players. I mean, you don't get as much of the ECHL guys like moving to the A, I feel like, as you do with the AHL guys to the NHL. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I haven't been following those leagues enough to really know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Well, speaking of which, I forgot to put on here how the Calder Cup playoffs are going, as we are in the finals right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think Hershey is up 2-1. But I don't know.
Nope, they're down 2-1.
Oh, okay. I'm rooting for Coachella Valley, so that's cool.
Yeah, I guess I am too. I don't really care.
Yeah, it's like not as exciting, and I don't watch AHL games during the season unless I'm going to a game in person. So that's really all I've got on that. I just figured we'd throw a quick little update. Again, because I'm not watching, I don't have a ton of takes for how the series is playing out.
Yeah. Did you see that the NHL preseason schedule got released?
I did not see that, actually.
Well, at least the Bruins one did. I don't know about the whole league, but the Bruins' first game is September 22nd, so 3 months away
Oh boy.
from hockey. Hockey ends. He has a 9-month season.
Yeah. Somebody on Twitter was saying it's kind of surprising we're getting these big trades while like the finals are still going on. Like it doesn't typically happen, but part of it's just like the 3 days in between games is really dragging this out.
Mm-hmm. In the week between the end of the conference finals and the finals.
That was brutal. It was like Monday was the previous game, or maybe Sunday, and then you had to wait until Saturday of the next week.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, what are you doing to me? But we still got hockey now. Unfortunately, we have to wait 2 more days, which I'm like, really gotta wait till Friday. But either way, we will know who won the cup next by the time we record the next episode, whether it be on
It'll be
Friday
the
or
last
Monday.
episode of the season.
We hope you're all there with us as we count it down.
That's all I got.
Me too. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Yeah.
Let's get this show on the road. Shall we? Episode 45, Red Loves Hockey. No, not 45. Restart.
We were staring at episodes all day. You should know what number we're on.
I know.